Well, happy Tuesday. It's March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm not wearing green. I apologize. I did have my green hat on earlier today as we were walking, so I'm not fully out of compliance. And yes, we did walk. Probably about 4.25 miles, which was a solid walk for us, and it felt great in between rain. It's March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, as I said, T+345, Journal 301. And it's interesting. It's interesting. Life is interesting, don't you think? I mean, isn't it fascinating? At times, very much different from what you thought it was going to be, or might be, or could be, or should be, or will be, or whatever. In any case, one of the great things about being me, in my opinion at least, are the relationships that I've been able to build over the years, the people that I've met and gotten to know, and the people that have gotten to know me. I hope they feel the same way. I hope you feel the same way. And the correspondence, the interaction that goes on between us as time goes on. And we're in post-production now. We've actually finished recording Misfire, What to Do When Things Aren't Running on All Cylinders. And it's insane. I think it's incredible. It's everything that I hoped it would be and more. And we're in post-production as the sound engineer works his way through stitching it all together. So I'm really excited because we're getting closer and closer to me being able to listen to the whole thing, the finished product, together. And I've written about it and talked about it, and a number of people obviously bought the book and commented, back to me in emails about the book. And one of the folks who did that, and I hope you're not upset if I use your name, Dan, but Dan Kovac went ahead and commented on the Corvette, the story of the Corvette, and actually was kind enough to say that he was looking for a die-cast model of Kurt's Corvette, which will make no sense to you if you didn't read the book yet. But hopefully you will, and then you'll understand what we're talking about. But here's the tale of the two Corvettes. When car guys get together, gearheads, motorheads, people like me, people who did what I did for more than 50 years, my entire life, really, that's what we talk about. And we've got war stories that would probably horrify most of you civilized folks out there. But we were talking back and forth about the two Corvettes. So here's the story of the two Corvettes, tale of the two Corvettes. I was never a Corvette guy. As a matter of fact, I may have been an anti-Corvette guy in the beginning because I thought Corvette owners in some cases were very much like Porsche owners who believe that piece of machinery transcends the metaphysical world. I never really understood that until I wound up owning a Corvette. But I didn't set out to own a Corvette. I didn't set out to buy a Corvette. What I did do, however, was take care of a number of Corvettes for a number of people over the years. One of the Corvettes I took care of was pristine. It was gorgeous. It was owned by an aerospace engineer who was meticulous in everything that he did, bordering on compulsive obsessive, OCD. But as a result, the car was showroom new. It was a 1981 Corvette, C3 Corvette, white with red interior. And it was my responsibility to take care of the Corvette, and I took that responsibility seriously. And despite the fact that Don was neurotic, I did a really good job of keeping that vehicle showroom new. No, all of a sudden he dropped out of sight and disappeared. And customers do that. You make a couple of calls and try to find out what's going on and what happened. Did you do something wrong? Did they angry? Did they move away? What happened? Never got anywhere. Never had any of the calls returned. Well, about a decade went by. 10 years went by. And probably somewhere around 2003 or 4, I got a call from Don's wife. Seems that what happened was he had become ill suddenly and come home, parked the car in the driveway, gotten ill, had a short illness, and then passed. And his wife didn't know what to do with the Corvette, so she just left it in the driveway for the better part of a decade. She decided to move back to the Carolinas, where they were from originally, and called me up out of the blue and said he always wanted me to have the car because I'd taken such good care of it, should anything happen. And she wanted me to have the car. She didn't want to have to deal with having it shipped back to the Carolinas. She just wanted me to have the car. Now, I don't know whether that was a true story or not. I don't know whether she just made it up so I would accept the car. Whatever it was, I wound up with a signed pink slip, the registration and ownership of the vehicle. And I drove it. And I don't know if you're not a car guy, you wouldn't know this, but if you are a car guy, in 1981, Corvette was built just after the 1979 fuel energy crisis, and it was a pig. I mean, it was just a plain ordinary slug. It had 180 horsepower. It was heavy. It didn't handle well. It didn't perform well at all. But it was still a Corvette, and probably one of the prettiest ones they've ever built, in my opinion. So I drove the car, and it was interesting. It was 2004. My dad went into the hospital for open heart surgery, and because of a hospital-borne infection, never really recovered. We went through 10 months of hell. I drove that car back and forth to 3 different hospitals over time, early in the morning, late at night. And I got to hate it. I got to hate the car. I don't know whether I hated the car because of the situation or whether I just hated the car, but it was awful. You couldn't pass a gas station. On a good day, it got 14 miles to the gallon. Maybe on the road, it got 10 in town, and it couldn't get out of its own way. And I was getting ready to get rid of it. Actually, what I was doing was trying to figure out whether or not to restore it. And then I couldn't really get my head around restoring it because I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it rode. I didn't like the way it handled. Then a guy came in for some work on a 1958 Corvette. And the 1958 Corvette had a late model LS1 engine and transmission in it, got incredibly good gas mileage, had all kinds of power, and was technologically superior in almost every way. And I wound up with this bug in my head that if this guy could go ahead and modify the Corvette, then I could. And as luck would have it, I was able to find a late model LT1 small block Chevy V8 engine, fully computerized with a fully computerized transmission and all the computer and wiring. And with our lead diagnostic drivability technician, Bob Brunick, who in all honesty did the majority of the work on the car, was able to graft that into the Corvette, completely rebuilt the suspension, front and rear, new springs, new bushings, it was a different car, completely different car. Had close to double the horsepower it had when it was new. It was 500 pounds lighter when we were finished with it. Got 28 miles to the gallon on the road. And it was perfect in every way except for one. Leslie hated it. For a number of reasons. Actually wound up spending a lot more money on the exhaust system than I wanted to, because I got a high-performance exhaust system that didn't sound like a high-performance exhaust system. The car was quiet. The problem was it didn't have any of the safety gear on it. It didn't have airbags, among other things. And the other part of the problem was that every time I got behind the wheel, if any of you remember Disney and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, I had this personality disorder. The minute I got in the car, my eyes used to rotate in opposite directions, and I couldn't control myself. Having been an inveterate street racer when I was a kid, I went kind of crazy every time that happened. And ultimately, Leslie was frustrated and angry and upset about the car, to the point where I was beside myself. I didn't know what to do. So I did the only thing that seemed reasonable. And if you know me, then you realize that this is consistent with my personality. When the opportunity to purchase a 2007 C6 Corvette convertible, Kurt's car, a black convertible, at an incredibly good price with very, very low mileage on it, I jumped all over it, because that car had airbags. It was a lot safer. The only problem was it was a convertible and it was loud. It was a whole lot louder. And Leslie didn't like that one either. And she referred to it as the Batmobile. But if you did read Misfire, then you know that there's a portion of the book that talks about canyon runs in a car. And that, for the most part, is autobiographical. I used to take both the cars out at different times, early Sunday morning generally, and go up to Decker Canyon and then across Mulholland Highway, all the way down to either Encinal Canyon or all the way down to Oxnard, up the coast from here, and then drive back. And windshield time was invaluable, especially that kind of windshield time. And it was therapeutic, because you couldn't really drive that canyon the way it was meant to be driven and not concentrate fully. So if you've read Misfire and you're wondering about which parts are autographical and which parts are not autobiographical, I will admit that some of those scenes are in fact true, and you'll have to wonder about what the others are. In the meantime, that's all for now. You'll be hearing more about Misfire, the audiobook, as time moves on. We're in post-production. The sound engineer has it. We're excited about releasing it. If we're all stuck inside, it may be a wonderful diversion for all of you. So stay well, take care, and stay tuned. And that's it for now.